Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo.
From the All2 interview series segment. God, I messed that up.
That's okay, Matt. It's okay.
I couldn't think of the word series or segment.
It's all right. Do you want to do that over, or are you good?
No, I'm good, actually.
Okay, cool. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, by the way. And with me, via the interwebs, is
Matthew. Chocolate cake leftover for my birthday. Haas.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Well, it's not 2 days ago, but
still.
Yeah.
As we record this.
Yes. My birthday lasts for 3 days, actually. It's very rare condition. My birthday actually literally lasts for 72 hours, so...
Were you, just part way out and then a little bit each day?
No. No, not really. I was Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, it took 3 days.
To fully be born.
Yeah.
Your foot was getting stuck. Oh my God.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just come back later. We'll see. We'll monitor the situation.
Sorry, Mrs. Haas.
Okay.
So, anyways, today we had an All2 interview with actor Gregory Jbara, Tony Award-winning actor Gregory Jbara. He won a Tony Award for his role of Dad in Billy Elliot the Musical in 2008. So, that's pretty cool. I think it's the first Tony Award winner we've had on here. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it is. So,
yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had, but yeah, he's been in a lot of stage plays and, among other things. Most people know him best as, the NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, Garrett Moore, on the CBS drama Blue Bloods, which he has been on since 2010 until present. And I was not reading that off of Wikipedia. I mean, I know it sounded just like I was, but...
No, you wrote that yourself. You wrote it in a scholarly, way or whatever.
Yes. He also, one of his other prominent TV roles to date was as Dan O'Keefe in the Fox/WB sitcom Grounded for Life, which ran from 2002 till 2005.
Oh, shoot. I think that was that the dude, the show with,
Donald Loge. Donald Loge was in it. Was the main guy.
Right, was that the guy from the movie they called it The Tower of Steve?
Yes, Donald Loge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that show. Yeah.
Yes, he. Yes, I do believe Gregory's character was like a recurring character as a friend of his on there. But he's also been on Broadway he played Billy Flynn in the revival of Chicago. That's the lead role in that. He was in Damn Yankees. He was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He originated the role of André Thibault. I can't pronounce words. And Yeah, among many other stage performances that he's done, and then he's guest starred on Friends and did a million other guest appearances on TV and stuff too. So he's a well-known actor. Graduated the he attended the University of Michigan and graduated from Juilliard School of Drama. So that is very cool. Yeah.
And when he says million, he literally means he's been in a million things.
No, I don't.
He's very he's always working constantly doesn't even sleep, just is constantly working.
Yes. He doesn't sleep. He's a robot. We learned that in the middle of the interview, and now you're spoiling it, Matt.
No, he's not a robot. He's got too big of a heart to be a robot, though.
Yes. He's a robot with a heart. Oh, wait, no, he's not a robot.
Ooh.
No.
I like that, though. Robot. A heartbot.
Heartbot.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm loopy as all shit right now, so.
Me too. So, anyways, here we go, and you can actually, really cool thing is I was the guinea pig for his brand new little studio setup that he has in his apartment in New York. So, first go of using his little studio in his apartment was on our podcast, so we got that to say. So, here we go. Here's my interview with Gregory Jbara. So, how are you doing with all the craziness in the world today?
This is 2 weeks into what I'm calling my sequestered employment in New York City. I'm an LA resident for the last 20 years, of course, ever since I was shooting season 10 of Blue Bloods when the COVID lockdown happened. And then I had about, that was end of January, early February. When did we? March 15th, 13th. March 13th is when we shut down, right? But I had finished. I was actually home when that happened in LA. So then they just said, "Yeah, don't bother coming back. There's no show to come back to." And then I had about some really welcome time with my wife and our youngest son, who's now in 11th grade in high school.
Oh wow!
And our eldest is away in college and was living off campus, so even though the campus locked down and he's getting his commercial pilot's license and the flight line was still open, he was able to continue working, doing his online classes. So unlike so many friends of ours who have children in grade school or had kids that were graduating last year, big transition time. I'm just speaking parental level.
Yeah.
It's we got off pretty easy. I mean, other than the unknown of whether I'd ever have a job again. But in terms of the hardship of, it's great when you have a kid that our youngest just got his driver's license. So, we've lucked out in that respect, and health wise too. We were smart in following all the recommended protocols, and gratefully none of us have contracted the virus, but though there have been many casualties that have been related to it with relatives and close friends. But our personal family, when people say how I'm doing, my pet answer is pat answer is grateful.
Yeah,
I'm grateful.
Yeah, that's always good that nobody in your immediate family's suffered, at least. So you're back to filming Blue Bloods now?
We are. We're 2 weeks in. I started a week ago yesterday. I was supposed to start a week ago yesterday. But then I ended up starting actually on the Tuesday prior, because the Viacom CBS and our unions have a wonderfully strict COVID protocol for being able to go back to production. And we had, so many people traveling back from other coasts, and the timing and the testing you have to do on a regular basis. And if you're not cleared with a negative test result, you can't work. I mean, it's that simple. Yeah. So because I tested before leaving LA, which you have to do if you travel by air, within 72 hours of getting on a plane, and then you must test immediately when your boots on the ground, and then you also have to test as an actor on the show, and any writer who's working on their episode, any director and first ADs, and a handful of other key crew. We test 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh wow!
And then that's just the COVID test every day that you work. Your temperature's taken and you fill out a questionnaire. And it's like working in a infectious disease laboratory. The redundancy of safety protocol in terms of the PPE that our crew wears is, and the fact is, I don't see most of the crew. There's a whole flow. Like the actors are in a specific pod, and we travel in our own world, and we don't physically see or come in contact with any other crew, because they only test like once a week, in addition to their temperatures being taken. So there's and our cameras are now robotic. I know that there was some information going around about that we were looking at robotic room cleaning, but it was actually robotic cameras.
Oh wow!
Were the next step. So the 3 men that would normally be on each of the 3 cameras on the set with us at the commissioner's office, now it's 2 cameras, and both those cameras have no people around them. The camera operator, the focus puller, and the dolly grip are all working remotely with joysticks from another space.
Oh wow!
And it's kind of surreal.
That is.
It's very very strange, but it's working. So, gratefully, it's a longer day. Yeah. It's definitely a longer day, and we're still finding our stride. It's when the director goes, let's move to a new size, and I want to bring these cameras around over this shoulder. The guys are watching a eye in the sky camera. The operators of the robots, they're looking at a camera that has an overview of the room. They can't just like push and make the thing move, because they're going to run somebody down. So it's a slightly slower process, every time we set up a new shot, but slowly, each day that I've worked, and there were many more days than anticipated because it's taking longer. Yeah. Not that because it takes 8 days to shoot an episode, and it's not that we're spending more days on it. It's just our days are longer. Yeah. But we're getting it done. Yeah, we're getting it done. It's just really strange.
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably good to be back to work at least too. I mean, regardless, yeah.
It is profoundly grounding, but it's also, I'm finding a whole other, admittedly, it's a whole other stress level, because I haven't been to New York since end of February.
Yeah.
Mid-February, and it's different. And I'm not staying in my big posh hotel that I commute to and from. I now am in an apartment that's a 4-minute walk from the sound stages, so that I don't have to deal with transportation. It's one less vehicle that our transportation department has to worry about getting me to and from. I can get myself every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to the testing center on the sound stages. It's and with my new health regimen, it's nice to have a kitchen, and I can cook all my own food and make sure that, I don't start stress eating and all that hard work goes away, from the insanity. But it's a different, I'm living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, which I've never done before. And although I did go into the city today to go to the farmers market at Union Square, and it's very different. The city is much quieter. There's a lot of institutional restaurants and stores that are shuttered permanently.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And it's really strange, really, really strange. Mm-hmm. It's a very different existence. But the bottom line is, hallelujah, I have a job.
Yeah, it's better than some people, unfortunately. And
like Broadway.
Yeah, I was hearing that they're not going to open until like mid next year or something. Broadway. Yeah.
It won't open. I don't know how it can open before the end of 2021.
That's what I'm thinking.
Those shows weren't constructed to work at 25% capacity. They need butts in every seats 8 times a week. And history has shown that nobody wants to say, "Oh, I'll take a pay cut." I mean, there are a few stickler unions that go, "No, you still have to pay us full rate."
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a charity or a benefit. So there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of teamwork that will be required if they want to come back before a vaccine is found, and then you have to convince tourists that it's safe to come back to New York City.
Yeah.
And how to get back to New York City. There are a lot of moving pieces that have to be solved before, and it has obliterated the city of New York. That the absence of Broadway, it is.
I know that's
it's
at the heart of New York.
Devastating. Yeah.
And I know those theaters too. A lot of them, were built like around the turn of the last century, and they've got like small seats sometimes too, and they're really close to each other. So. That's
and inadequate ventilation systems. I mean, the work they really can't unless the federal government's going to say, hey, we'll help you spend millions of dollars renovating all these facilities so that you can, safely have a few more than 25% in the theater. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It can't. It's not responsible.
So, speaking of like Broadway and everything else, how did you get started in acting?
I always credit the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I was an altar boy. I was raised Catholic, went to a public school, but I was an altar boy. And there were like, 3 masses on Sunday. There was a 5:00 mass on Saturday. And then what a lot of people don't know is, for those who aren't avid churchgoers, there's a 6:30 mass every weekday. And the adults who were the lectors that would read from the scripture, like the first and second readings and any additional connective material that the priest wasn't saying during a high mass on the weekend. The adults were doing that. They were lecterns that were up assisting. But during the week, those adults are too smart to get up to do a 6:30 mass. The altar boys were the ones who were doing the reading. And here I was in 3rd grade, standing at a podium, reading biblical names that have more syllables than Constantinople, and cutting my teeth on public speaking and going, oh, this is something I have a facility for. And I can remember at some point going back to, I was in school during the week, and someone came up to me and said, hey man, I saw you up there on the altar on Sunday at Mass. That was you, right? I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, it's really cool. And, it's like it kind of kind of seeded that little ego of mine going, oh, I got noticed. That's kind of, so I'm being a little flip about it. But the reality is the idea of being in front of people, which is, a huge part of the success of stage acting at the very least. I attribute to the fact that my folks raised me Catholic, and Father Niekarts had me reading from the scriptures at a very early age. It was and then I also went to a public school system in Wayne Westland, Michigan. That this is the 60s and 70s, and this is when baby boomers, they were paying everybody was happy to pay education taxes because their children were getting every possible opportunity, and we did. We had a TV studio, we had a radio station, we had a marching band, we had a 60-member men's chorus.
Oh wow.
It was like the arts were it. I mean, sports were as well, and academia. I have 2 siblings that were valedictorian, but thank goodness for the fine arts and that everything was there, because that really was what made me happy. It's where I excelled. It was validating. And when I was floundering in the world of math after geometry, I had performing arts to lean back on and go, hey, you still have some worth, man. You can make people laugh. You're a good entertainer. You have a great ear. Okay, good, because I can't even spell trigonometry, let alone do it.
I think that's the same for a lot of artists. I was good with geometry, and that was about it. So.
Right. That literally, like geometry, and then I couldn't even tell you what like which algebras, whether they came before or after, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I remember that geometry was like, I was acing it. Jamie Rothermel and I were pitted against each other by Mr. Telma, our math teacher, because he just saw that we were highly competitive and we were great. It was like, I love math. But then whatever that next step was, no, math requires a part of my lobe that I think is dead.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I think I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So, what was like your first experience on like the actual stage?
You mean even non-professionally?
Anything.
It was a traumatic experience.
Oh no.
It was first grade. I mean, other than third grade, as an altar boy, but actually performing, it was first grade, and we weren't doing plays in elementary school, but our class was going to sing Frosty the Snowman for the Christmas concert. Each class would contribute some musical piece to the Christmas concert. And our class was going to sing Frosty the Snowman, and our teacher had to select one of the students to play Frosty the Snowman. And what that entailed was, we're going to wrap you up in white tissue paper and put on the corncob pipe and the button nose and two eyes made out of coal and the top hat. And all you have to do, you don't even have to sing now. You're absolved from having to know the song. You just have to walk back and forth in your Frosty the Snowman costume while the rest of the class sings. And you just walk back and forth. That's all you have to do. And I was selected as Frosty the Snowman. And I had never known such terror. It was the first time I think I'd ever been singled out for anything in a performance aspect, and the stakes were so high. I'm just remembering this, but it's still a sense memory that I was terrified. And once the number was over and the concert was over, and everyone said, "Greg, you did such a great job. You were such a perfect Frosty the Snowman," as you would say to any first grade child who just whether they tanked or not, you must bolster their egos. And I came away going, oh, I didn't die. I didn't have a heart attack. That was really exciting and exhilarating. And I think that's where the exhilaration bug came in for performing. It was like, oh, this is a lot of fun.
It's definitely a good high when you get on stage.
And not have a heart attack.
Yeah. Once you survive
at 5 years of age. Yeah, exactly.
So you ended up going to Michigan and then to Juilliard, right? Did you do theater at Michigan?
I did. I started with a minor in physics and a major in communications. The president of the communications department, he was the president of that department. I think that was his actual title. He died halfway into the first year, and I realized very quickly in my 101 courses for a minor in physics that there were people doing things in their head in class that it would take hours for me of studying every night to keep up. And although I loved blowing things up and all the competitive experiments that we did when I was in high school that made me love physics, I realized, there are people that are really a lot smarter than me, and we're not blowing up things nearly as much as I'd like to, or building airplanes out of, whatever. And long story short, I realized that I was being cast in all the non-theater department shows that I was auditioning for. I had joined our dorm. It was Adams House West Quad jazz band, Tony Carlin and his orchestra, Tony Kalin and his orchestra. I was still able to play trombone. And then I started being a vocalist for that band. I was in the sophomore musical that was directed by Oliver Goldstick, who, if you Google him, you'll go, oh, he's a very accomplished TV showrunner. Beth Gordon, who now is Beth Holmes, who's one of LA's most prominent casting directors in LA. She was Charity Hope Valentine. Douglas Sills was Vittorio Vidal. He's a wonderfully accomplished Tony-nominated Broadway star. It was just a core of really amazing people, but also the choreographers for that sophomore production, which meant everything was done by sophomore students. We're talking direction, design, the whole Megillah, production, everything was done by students. The choreographers, the two ladies, Michelle Melkerson and Sue Addison and I, the two women were the choreographers. They came to me and said, "Hey, we want to start a dance company here, non-departmental dance company. Will you be our guy?" And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll you bet. Mirrors, very little clothing. Yes, this works for me. But so I was a sort of, I happen. I'm not a dancer, but I got away with it back then. Moved enough, to embarrass myself. We started this dance company called Impact Jazz that I'm proud to boast still exists today as a non-departmental dance company at the University of Michigan. And then also with a fellow student who I knew since junior high, Linda Goodrich. We were students at Michigan together. She, along with, it was really Connie Barron, who was a PhD in voice at the School of Music. Connie wanted to put together, along with, I'm ashamed that her name isn't coming up. One of my other voice teachers, her daughter and I are connected on Facebook. I could tell you everything about her except her name. It'll come back to me. We ended up we actually founded what is now the musical theater program at the University of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Under Dean Boylan. And so right when it got underway and they said, yeah, great, you have a musical theater program, but you're going to have to stay at Michigan another 2 years to fulfill all the music courses that are required through the School of Music, because you've been in the School of Literature, Science, and Arts as a theater major. And I went, and my professors and directors and teachers, mentors at Michigan in the theater program said, you really should be going to another school that's more of a conservatory, that's a bigger challenge, because I became gratefully a big fish in that small pond very fast there. We're talking within my first 2 years. My first summer there, I was cast in 3 leads in the summer rep at the Power Center. So it was like a fast track at Michigan, but everybody's going, yeah, but you really need to go somewhere where you can be taken down a peg. It'll be good for you. So I auditioned and got accepted into the Juilliard School, which was another long journey. I consider it the Michigan Mafia that got me into that, because Sharon Jensen, who is the president of the League of Professional Theater Training Schools at that time, that would have been 1981. Yeah, 1981. She's like Connie Barron's best friend. It was Connie who said, call Sharon Jensen. I want her to talk to you about the league schools, the conservatories and universities that have intensive theater training programs, to see if this might be something you might want to do. And after speaking with her, I realized if I'm not going to stay and stick it out at Michigan, I need to go to New York City. That's the place if I'm going to leave, go to New York City, because if you'll be trained as an actor. Your work during your training will be seen by the industry. There's film going on there. But I considered myself a stage actor because that's what I had known. I ended up leaving Michigan. The musical theater program started. I was a founding class member, but I left, and then got accepted to Juilliard and did another 4 years. So it took 7 years for me to ultimately get my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and my parents breathed a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah,
that I finally finished something.
How intensive was it at Juilliard? Is it really intensive there?
There's a PBS special called Live from Lincoln Center, Juilliard at 80. So if you Google it, I've actually tried to find it. I haven't found it online anywhere. But I can remember saying in an interview there, because I was one of the 5 students chosen to represent the acting program. Yeah. There were students from each discipline. And I said, what's beautiful about the acting program at Juilliard is they you come in thinking you know who you are and what you're about. And what they do, which is really unsettling, is they dissect you. They even as you resist and try not to make it happen, they force you to look at yourself from the outside and compartmentalize all the things that you are. and kind of take it out of an organic, just sort of instinctive thing and go, no, these are specific things that you do, and here are the things you do that are successful, and these are the things that you do that aren't, and we're going to teach you how to make choices about what tools you use as an actor. And the hard thing is you're scrutinizing your physicality, they're scrutinizing your voice. Like my Michigan nasality was one of the reasons I got accepted there is because when Liz Smith, who was our voice teacher primary there, when I auditioned for her out in San Francisco, she said, you open your mouth, and she goes, oh, I have to fix that horrible sound. That's what she said. That Michigan nasality. And one of our other teachers said it was one of the other things they also realized is that there was hope for me, because when I sang, the Michigan nasality was gone. I had tremendous, wonderful classical placement when I sang, but when I spoke, so they went, okay, there's hope. We know that he has the ability to do. So there are all these things that got me in there. But ultimately, after about the first 2 years, when all they're telling you is, no, that's not, you're no good. No, that's not good. Nope. And you doubt whether you've made the right choice. You doubt whether this is the career path for you. But what they do ultimately is they go, you have to go to that place of self-doubt. And they do protect you, although it's a rough road. Emotionally, it's a really rough road. But they don't let you kill yourself or become suicidal. There's enough of a safety net, because this is the important process. Because when you come out at the other end, you understand everything that you are. It's like having therapy and great theater acting training all at the same time. It's wonderful. So if you survive the program, you really have a great set of tools to be successful.
It probably gives you a thick skin too for when you come out, and you can a little bit. Yeah. I don't know that's true. Of the original 23 actors that started in my class, only 11 of us actually completed the 4 years. They do a cut after the second year. There are actors in the class that simply don't. Juilliard goes, we don't need to be taking your money. You're ready to go. You go out and you go make money and be a successful artist because you got it. And then there are other actors where they go, we just don't think in these 2 years, we just don't think this is for you. But of the 11 that made it all the way through, I think it's fair to say that really only 5 of us actually went on to make a living. Oh, wow.
And in the industry, and it wasn't because we were the 5 of the most talented. It was because we were the 5 who figured out the salesman aspect of being an actor, that you have to walk into the room and be winning as a salesman of what the commodity is that you're marketing. And not all of these actors who were better actors were uncomfortable in their own skin and had difficulty with that aspect of the business. And if they weren't lucky enough to have representation that could and many of them couldn't get representation because the managers and agents that met them are going, oh my gosh, what I really just want to do is hold you and tell you it's going to be okay. And nobody, it's difficult to market that kind of a person. The industry is difficult enough that you really do want people that walk into the room and go, hey, I like me, and you're going to like me, and I'm really not a desperate person, and I'm really okay, and I'm going to be the least squeaky wheel of all the things you're going to have to deal with, and you're actually going to want to work with me over the course of this 3-month film or this potentially 10-year series. So don't worry, I'm a good bet. And that's, I think, more important than especially anymore than because the big stars that are, unless they're just a huge box office draw and they can just get away with anything, but the artists that become more of a liability than they are fun to work with and creating a product that is making somebody money, those people tend to stop getting work. I have found.
It's, regardless of anything, it's probably you just need people that you want to work with. Because, if somebody's difficult or shy or whatever, it's not going to work out probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the quote came from, but they said, "Oh yes, they worked with all of the great directors once." And gratefully, that's not my case. I have several: Jack O'Brien, Stephen Daldry, Ken Kwapis in television. A lot of validating, and then Tom Selleck. Blue Bloods is actually the third TV job that he's given me.
Wow.
So somehow I've managed to keep my stink outside the room, and snow them all into thinking that I'm fun to work with and reliable. So it really has proven that if people that like working with you will actually work with you again.
Hello, I'm Tom.
And I'm Brian,
Hosts of Be Hero Fights.
home of the greatest debates of our time.
We tackle the tough topics such as
Fortnite versus Call of Duty.
McDonald's versus Burger King.
John Wick versus...
Wait, is that really fair?
Nevertheless, join us weekly on Spotify, Apple, Google, and pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts.
And hear the madness ensue.
And as always,
fight on.
Hi, folks. This is Michael E. Cullen II from the podcast that you're listening to right now, along with
manager Matthew Haas.
You got promoted?
Yes.
Damn it. Okay. Anyways, folks, do you like the show Superstore? Well, I don't know. I asked the folks and nobody's answering me
because they're not here.
Oh,
but we love
damn it. Yeah, we love it though. Okay, folks, if you like it as much as we do, you're really going to like the Super Story podcast, which is a podcast where Matthew and I go episode by episode and give our little opinions and thoughts on it. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. Just depends on how we're feeling.
Yeah.
And, so if you like this podcast and like our little crazy banter,
then you should definitely check this out. Or I might get sad. And when I get sad, it gets pretty sad.
yeah,
So
I can't deal with him when he's sad.
no one can really. So
Yeah. So check out Super Story Podcast right here where you get this podcast, Super Story Podcast. You were in Billy Elliot. How was that, the musical? I noticed that too.
Speaking of, that was Stephen Daldry who directed Billy Elliot. That was an interesting journey because I had just come from, I was living in L.A., had just finished doing Dirty Rotten Scoundrels on Broadway, but we were living in L.A. with two very young children, and business was drying up in L.A. All of the industry was moving out to Canada and to Louisiana and Georgia and Texas, and there was a lot less production happening in Los Angeles. They wooed me. Well, it was like, okay, I'm either going to become a cook at night somewhere, or I'll drive a FedEx truck because we're broke and we need to figure out a way to put food on the table. So I threw my hat in the ring for some jobs back in New York, for some stage jobs, and I threw myself at Dirty Rotten Scoundrels I got, but I was wooed by the producers who said, this is a leading role and there's great potential that you could get a Tony nomination and it could really help parlay into other work. And those are sort of, from a business standpoint, at this point in my career, having already worked, my last Broadway job before that was starring in Chicago on Broadway, and then in Victor Victoria with Julie Andrews, and then in Damn Yankees with Jerry Lewis and Victor Garber and B.B. Newirth before that.
Wow.
I'd had, I'd hit the wall in New York because all I was doing was auditioning for leading roles that were going to people that had bigger TV and film recognition than I had, because I had none. So that's why we moved to LA, because it was like, okay, it's time for me to get some TV and film work so I can come back and star on Broadway. And that's literally what happened. I got the gig in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels right after I did this guest starring role on Friends that got a lot of exposure because it was like the final season, and it really did. All the people said, "Yeah, man, we saw you on Friends." It was like, it's a powerful tool
Yeah.
for stage actors, and for producers who are going, we need a face, we need a name that's recognizable, that we can market to get people into the theater. So I take this job. The boys were really young then, so we got to all be in New York at that time. Our youngest was 6 months. Zachary hadn't started school yet, so it was easy for us all to be there. But it was a glorious, wonderfully gratifying, phenomenal job. We had a great time, but then it was time to go back to LA because our youngest was really starting grade school, and he'd gotten into the school that we wanted him to get into back home, and we couldn't afford to live in New York we couldn't afford it. So it was time to go back to LA, and then we were broke again. That was 2007. It wasn't even a year, and I had to put my hat in the ring. But the reason there were John Lithgow, Norbert Leo Butz, Sherry Renee Scott, Joanna Gleason, and I, and then right below Bill, right next after me was Sarah Gettelfinger. Of the top five billed, I was the only person who didn't get nominated for a Tony Award, and I don't begrudge that at all, because the truth is, the other actors that were nominated in the category that I'd be eligible were like they were amazing and required discipline and physical stamina that was not required of me in the role that I did. I couldn't even tell you who the nominees were, but I went, no, I don't feel like I was being slighted, because those people had to do a lot more than I did in that category. So, but you take a job and you go, oh, there's a potential for, but what you can't control is in the creative process, songs get added, they get cut, things come and go, and it can affect the weight and size of the role that you play. So when Billy Elliot and 9 to 5, and what was the other show that I was considering going into that same season when we were broke again in LA? Billy Elliot, I researched. Billy Elliot, the role of the father that I was auditioning for, that I would ultimately audition for, got nominated for the Helpman Awards, I think they're called, in Australia.
Oh, okay.
The role of the father got nominated for the Olivier Award on the West End in London. So I knew that the role was hefty enough that it could be a great opportunity for me to possibly get that recognition that could help parlay more, at least remunerative work in theater, if not TV and film. So when my agents called from New York and said, hey, would you be interested in auditioning for Billy Elliot? I said, I did the research, and I came back and I said, you bet. And what normally happens when you're a New York stage actor who moves to LA, and then there are shows that want to consider you they usually say, we'll fly you out on Wednesday late, you'll sleep, you'll get up the next morning, you'll read for everybody, and then we'll put you on a plane Thursday afternoon and you're back in LA. Great, fantastic. So my agents say, so we're wondering if you would be interested in audition for Billy Elliot. We know you told us not to bother you with any theater stuff because you just don't want to be tempted with being away from your family. And I said, well, would they fly me out and put me out there? Well, no, actually, the casting director thinks you're wrong for the role.
Oh, wow.
And I went, so why am I going in? And they said, because, we've thrown all of our other actors that are possibly right for it, and they weren't interested in any of them that have auditioned already. So we were wondering if you'd be willing to fly yourself out and audition for them. Oh. And I'm thinking, my ego. And I'm going, the casting director thinks I'm wrong. And they based that on, your character from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is so different than this role, and Billy Elliot. And I go, yeah, but I'm an actor, but okay. I see what we're up against here. They said, and what they want you to do is they want you to come out early and do a preliminary audition with, and I go, you know what? If you can get me past the casting director, then you have to get me past all the other preliminary steps. Get me so that my audition is the callback session with the director who makes the decision. I don't want to waste time letting somebody else's opinion get in the way of me being able to have this job. So if you can get me into the final callbacks, I'll go. I'll do it. I'll bone up. I'll book this job. And they did. My agents are good enough that they made that happen, in spite of the casting director going, he's not right. He's not right for the role. So I got in. What did I do? I flew in. Oh, I stayed with my brother up in Westchester. But on the day of the audition, I went down, and my hair was a lot longer. I hadn't shaved. The other thing was, what I learned in hindsight was one of the reasons they were just dismissing all of these American actors auditioning for these roles was because we all used, especially the guys auditioning for the dad, we all used the movie Billy Elliot as our template for how to do this Geordie accent, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out the Scottish actor who played the dad was a really lazy dialectician, that he really wasn't doing a good Geordie accent. He was falling back on his Scottish on a regular basis. So we basically, all the Americans who thought he was doing it right, because that's the guy who did the role in the movie, we all came in basically doing a Scottish accent. And the creative team at Billy Elliot were pulling their hair out. They're going, no, this isn't, no, that's not Geordie, that's Scottish. Well, it's like, well, that's what that guy in the movie did. So what they ended up doing with me was they said, you're going to come in and spend, you're going to do a dialect session with our dialect coach. He's going to decide first, on the same day, that morning, he's going to decide whether you have the ability to do a Geordie accent. And then if he signs off on you, then we're going to go ahead and do the remaining 3 hours of auditioning you're going to do that day with the rest of the crew. So I went in early to this casting office where these studios were. And while I'm sitting there waiting for my meeting with William Conacher, the dialect coach, Stephen Daldry comes in to use one of the two rooms that they're auditioning in, and he knows who I am. He knows I'm coming in that day, and I know who he is, because one of the most important tools, thanks to the internet, is you research, you look at the breakdown for an audition, and you look at all the people that could potentially be in that room, and you Google every single person, and you look them up, and you find out what they look like, who they are, what shows they've done, in case there's any thread of connection you may have had with that person. That's another vital salesman tool that you must have. And the internet is there for you to glean all that information. But I was prepared. When I saw him, I said, he goes, Greg. I said, Stephen, good to see you. And I looked very different. I had really, really long hair. I wasn't shaven. I was wearing my clothes, which is basically flannel and jeans. And he said, I really appreciate your coming in for this. I realize, it's, he knew that they weren't paying for it at all.
Yeah.
But that it was my own ambition. Long story short, he goes, I'm looking forward to this afternoon. Thanks again. We'll see you later. And then he went into his room. And then I went and had my session with William Conacher, who, thank God, because I do have a facility actually I have a great ear for dialects. And boom, he goes, you're good to go. I went to my favorite barbershop in Times Square Barbers at the time. It's not Nick Sacadato, who was my barber for a million years down at Hudson and 12th Street, but he retired. So I had to go to my B team for haircuts. And I went in and they cut my hair number 4 clipper all the way down and gave me a shave. And then I changed my clothes to wear the exact same outfit that the dad wears, the jeans, the work boots, and the leather coat that was in the movie. Because I was going to go, I know this casting director thinks I'm wrong, for one thing.
Yeah.
I also gained 20 pounds since the role I had played in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So physically I was looking different. And I wanted to get myself as possibly close to what I think they're looking for based on what we saw in the movie. So then I walked back in the room, and you can see on Stephen's face, he's going, and William Conacher, they went, I had a whole other look when I came in. And I think that was beneficial. I think they went, oh, this actor is transformative. He's capable of he's not just him. He can do, and then we had a beautiful, amazing audition process that was more about me sitting down with Stephen Daldry and the assistant director, Julian Weber, they spent more time talking to me about me and getting a sense of who I was as a person, because what they wanted to make clear was, yeah, you're going to be like the number 2 billed character in the show. Mrs. Wilkinson is billed above the dad. But this is a show that has 24 children in it. And the success of the show is going to be that we all understand how important it is to nurture and protect and yield to these children who are vital to the success of the show. And I go, of course, I'm a dad. I get it.
Yeah.
And they even offered, Stephen even said, if you want, we can put your kids in the ensemble to play ensemble roles. And I'm thinking, no way in HE double toothpicks would I do that to my children. Also, just knowing the rehearsal process, but also it's like, I don't want to do that to my wife, who'd have to be the stage door mom. And it was like, no, thank you. How generous. He was suddenly creating opportunities to make the job more enticing for me.
Yeah.
And it was clear that he was seriously considering me for this role. Ultimately, in spite of what the casting director thought, I got the job. And, a year later, was honored with the Tony Award and the Drama Desk Award and the Outer Critics Circle Award. And that heat got me a gig on Nurse Jackie. And that heat got Tom Selleck's wife, Jilly, to go, Greg, your friend Greg just won a Tony Award. You should get him on your show. And then the next thing you know, Tom's calling and saying, hey, I got this character. It's only a 2-episode arc at the end of season 1, but I really would like you to do it. And I got that message through my agent. And I said to my agent, this is job number 3 that Tom Selleck has given me. They said, but we'd like it. They wanted me to come in the next morning and read for the producers. And I said, look, I'm the first guy to do a dog and pony show. If I don't know the people who are making the decision, I want to meet them. I need to sell myself to them so they know I'm the guy. Unfortunately, tomorrow, we have a put-in rehearsal for a new Billy. And that Billy shares the stage with me 60% of the time. And it would be unfair for me not to be there for that child, because he's going to make his Broadway debut that night. And he deserves to have me there. And that's my first priority. And I have a cold. So my voice is like shot to begin with. So if I were to come in the room, not only would I be undermining my first obligation, which is to the Broadway show, I would also not sound the best. And I had auditioned for Blue Bloods for 3 other roles prior to this offer that came from Tom. And I said, if you really need to know what I look like on tape, you've got me for 3 other characters. I've done 3 other auditions with your casting office. They know you guys, they have me on tape. Please review that tape. I'm sorry. If you want me to come in the day after tomorrow, I can do it, but I can't do it tomorrow. And I thought, well, that's what it is. That's where I'm obligated to this Broadway show. Well, long story short, end of the next day, you got the job.
Nice.
And at the end of the second episode that I did, we're shooting over at what's the Italian restaurant where the commissioner and Garrett always meet for drinks after a rough day. Kevin Wade, our executive producer, he's sitting with me at the table. We're not done shooting. He goes, he says, so are you enjoying this? And I go, yeah, why do I feel like, am I seeming down? No. He goes, you're great. He goes, we're just hoping that you'd like to keep doing this, because we know it's just a 2-episode arc, but this is a really good fit and you could really help us out. And I'm going, yeah, I'm in. You bet. Yes. Thank you, Santa Claus. And that's how, that wonderful Broadway job, which I'm still in love with Stephen Daldry to this day, who, by the way, just got, he's got how many Oscar nominations for The Hours, for The Reader, for, but he also just got another Tony nomination, and his play, The Inheritance, that he directed, and its writer, and it's gotten a bazillion nominations they just came out. So, yeah, I've just, I'm lucky. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
I don't know.
Did. That was definitely. Good. Yeah, and I mean, it's really cool to see you on Blue Bloods. The chemistry that you and Tom have together is just great. I mean, it's like
it's him.
Yeah.
It's him because he could be, if he wanted to, although he's always generous because he's really always about the end result. But gratefully, the foundation, we had an episode where at the end it was like a bromance, a little teary when Garrett chooses not to leave and that he's hoping for a slightly better raise. It was some brilliant writing by Kevin Wade. But it was a very emotional scene, and it was so easy to play. And Tom and I both admitted to each other we were so looking forward to playing the scene because we both said, "This is actually our real life."
Yeah,
we love coming to work, and he is the boss, and I don't make any mistake about it. I'm grateful for that. But how it was a beautifully written scene that genuinely reflected the wonderful relationship that he and I have. He's an incredibly loyal professional friend. It's 10 years. What we're going on season 11 on this job, my third that he and I have done together.
And I mean, I think that's the thing about Blue Bloods that keeps it going is actually there's a heart to the show that a lot of other shows don't have that are quote unquote procedural type shows. It was, and I wasn't a part of the early days of season 1, but I do know from conversation with Tom and also to see the changes that took place that they were really pushing for a procedural show early on, and as were the original creative and some of the writers they had on board. But Tom really knew and understood the weight and value, as did Len Goldberg, that it was the family and the dynamic of those characters. That's the heart and soul, not how do you catch the perp. It's more about what are the human struggles that take place, and they wisely focused on that, and I think in support of what you said, I think that's the success of the show, is it's really wonderfully character driven. Is the show going to tackle any of the current events in the world or anything in the upcoming season, or is it going to, I mean, I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet. Yeah. Except that, if you really look at what we're going through right now, every single topic has already been addressed. Oh, I'm sure.
On Blue Bloods.
Oh, I know it has.
From pandemic disasters to Black Lives Matter to let's defund the cops. All of those things have already been subject matter that the show has addressed. So is there a sense of responsibility in terms of putting more focus on that? Yes. And I would be lying if I said that wasn't the priority of our writers in terms of the arc of this first season, is that we realize we have an even greater responsibility right now to help heal and educate and inform, not preach.
No,
but,
that's the thing.
But to perhaps, by way of example, show how constructive debate can exist. There's no question that CBS is concerned of being politically correct as a network, but I do know that our writers and our cast are willing to push back when they think that there are choices that are being asked by the network that may be too safe. But our show feels it's important to let's be a little uncomfortable, because that's good drama, that's good education,
And I mean, I think that's what's always been good about the show too, is it tackles issues from all points of view a lot of times. So you don't have just like, this is how you're supposed to believe, or there's no preaching, like you said, which is good. It
gives, if there's two sides to an argument, it gives those who champion one side or the other feeling like they've been heard and understood, but it also gives those people the opportunity to hear and see the other side of the argument when they may in life have blinders on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great gift that the show has that I know is not being disregarded or disrespected.
Hey folks, this is Michael E. Cullen II from the podcast that you're listening to right now, along with
Matthew Haas.
We just wanted to tell you about our great podcast called Super. It's called All2Real. And on that show, what do we do, Matt?
We watch biopics, and then we talk about whether or not the movie matched up with the real story or not.
So
It was a lot more exciting than that, though.
Yeah, so we analyze the real story and the real story.
Get it?
Get it?
Real.
Yeah, they're spelled differently,
Yeah.
folks. You can guess which one I said which way.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. But we talk about great movies like Shattered Glass and The Social Network and Futile and Stupid Gesture, among others. Those are some of the ones that we've covered so far, and we're going to cover a lot more. So please subscribe on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your great, fun podcasts. And be sure to share it with your friends.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
And make sure you're not afraid to get all too real. Bye-bye.
Do you have dreams that you want to achieve but are scared to do so due to self-doubt, fear, and other people's criticism? I have just what you need. You need a dose of the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, where I interview guests that will motivate and inspire you to stop at nothing to achieve your dreams. And always remember, if you believe, you can achieve.
Do you have any advice to anybody that might be interested in getting into entertainment or anything?
Yeah. There's a paragraph that I have that I've, because that question is often being asked.
Yeah.
And I was invited, after being honored with a Tony Award, I was invited to be a distinguished alumnus at my high school and speak at the commencement ceremony. And the crux of what I said was, and I think it's whether it's being an actor or anything, is that the greatest service you could do to yourself as a human being and to all the people who have touched your life, to wherever you are at this point in life, your mother who gave birth to you, the teachers who educated and nurtured you, anybody that did anything to help keep you going forward in life. The greatest honor you could do to yourself and all of them is invest the time to figure out what it is that makes you want to wake up in the morning. What's the thing that most compels you as something you really, really, really want to do, that really makes you happy? It isn't necessarily, because there are a lot of people that love to have a career in entertainment, and they pursue it, and they're just dashed at every turn, and they're miserable, and so they're not happy. So it's hard work to figure out what is it that really makes you happy, and allow whatever that, because that's a long journey.
Yeah.
So some people never find that, but if you find that pursuing a career in happiness, a career in entertainment, actually gives you happiness and validation and a sense of worth and a sense of accomplishment, and that's the thing that makes you want to get up in the morning, then I say that's what you do. But be honest with yourself. That's a hard thing to do too.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that still are, and I'll admit this pandemic has filtered out a lot of people that they were just kind of living on hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Because there's simply no opportunity right now.
Mm-hmm.
And their waiter jobs that they had, that they were doing, waiting for their big break, those have been dashed. So it's a very difficult time right now, because the restaurants are gone. I say go after it. If it's something but don't, just always be honest with yourself. Always look in the mirror. And always be truthful in comparing yourself to your abilities to other people. You know what I mean? There's so many people who, as brutal as it sounds, you just go, I I think it's wonderful that they want to be an actor. But when you see the work they do and the limited skill set they have, you go, either you need to start over and get some really good training, or you need somebody that's going to say, this isn't the best path for you.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing for somebody who really wants to be an actor is go after it. Don't sit back and go, oh, one day something's going to happen. You have to pursue it with all your being. I mean, really, it's got to be the thing that you want to do 24/7 all day, every day, not just hope it happens. You have to go after it. Yeah. And then if it doesn't come to fruition, then maybe that's life helping you make a new decision.
Yeah, nobody's being discovered at a drugstore counter anymore or anything like.
Yeah, it does happen on occasion,
but not.
But
often.
No, Weinstein's going to prison now, so that one variable is gone.
So, anything else you wanted to talk about before I let you go here? I don't want to keep you all night or anything.
No, I'm grateful for this opportunity and for the chance to break in my new sound studio here in the guest bedroom in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was great talking to you, and maybe we can do it again sometime. And I can't wait to see the new season of Blue Bloods and anything else you got coming up.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm grateful for your enthusiasm for the show, and maybe because you are so successful with the Zoom, maybe we can do something with. I could definitely hook in Abby and Bob. I'm sure if at some point we could do what after the show's up and running.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe we could do like a let's talk about the episode kind of thing.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Because the season premieres is chock full of really good stuff.
Awesome.
Actually, the first 2 episodes are really good. Yeah. I actually have a problem with some of the stuff they got Garrett doing, but it's good drama. That's all. I realize I have to go, Greg, it's not you. You're not. This isn't you. This is Garrett. I go, oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Well, that's good to hear.
Thank you, Michael.
No problem.
Great to talk to you and see you finally, because you've
Yeah.
been so good with your internet follow-up and, emails and things. So
Okay. Thank you. And you have a good evening, and
thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the night.
Thanks so much. You
Thank
too.
you. Okay, that was my interview there with Gregory Jbara. That was pretty insightful, really great interview. Such a nice guy. Such a down-to-earth. I don't know. It's just really cool when people that you admire on TV are like good people,
Yeah, I mean, because it kind of sucks when you find out the opposite, like, oh, shoot, it's like...
Yeah, which, hopefully doesn't happen too much, and I do like the fact that he talks about how great the set is and everything, too, working with Tom Selleck and everything, which I think is awesome, and how much he owes to Tom in his career, and that was really cool to hear. I mean... Tom Selleck is definitely one of America's greatest actors, in my opinion. So that's cool.
Yeah, he's really good. Plus, too, the acting and pretty much any kind of artistic endeavor. It's really really tough industry. So if you can get a gig that lasts 10 years, that's really good.
Yeah, that is. And this is the 3rd job that Tom has gotten him too, so it's pretty cool. And I mean, talking about good actors too. I mean, Gregory, a Tony Award-winning actor, just brilliant on Blue Bloods. Brings a lot of heart to that character, and the chemistry between him and Tom Selleck and the other characters that he interacts with is just so real and cool. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about that and how things have changed on their set since COVID-19 hit and everything too. So that was pretty cool to hear, and hopefully we'll have him on again sometime soon.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, what's going on with you, Matt? Anything?
Not much. I'm just still working on my projects. I've kind of working on my 4th volume of my music compilations, where I kind of just going through pretty much all of my work really since like 2001, maybe 2000, and I'm just kind of pouring through over all of it and just kind of picking out what I think are, my best songs or tracks, and making these compilations. And, it takes a lot of work, really, because not only am I trying to find, what I think are my best tracks, but I'm trying to put them in an order where it's pleasing to listen to in that particular order, because I like making music mixes. I don't like just throwing a bunch of tracks in a random order. I kind of like to take the listener on a journey, so to speak. And it's tough though to do that, because you really gotta find the right tracks, and you gotta make sure that each track goes into the next track in a good way. And it's just so I'm working on my fourth one right now, and I'll be doing other stuff too. I've been watching a lot of TV, which is really hard work. And
oh yeah, I know.
Finished watching The Boys last week, and I'm rewatching it again this week. So
it's a good show. Good show.
It's a really good show.
I've been rewatching the former NBC television show Chuck for some reason.
Yeah,
and
that's a good show too.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through the series now, which is good. Finished up watching most of Once Upon a Time recently. That was a
great show.
Yes.
Speaking of The Boys, one of the actors in The Boys was also in Once Upon a Time season 1. I forgot his name, even though he's like a seriously famous actor.
Who was?
Huh?
Which actor?
The guy who plays Edgar, Mr. Edgar in The Boys.
Oh yeah,
he's been in like a million.
Duh, I forgot all about that. Giancarlo.
Yeah, he was
Giancarlo Esposito.
He was season 1 of the Once Upon a Time. He played what did he play? He played
he played the mirror, the guy in the mirror, Sidney, the man in the mirror. Yeah. Most people call him Giancarlo Esposito. But I heard an interview with him recently, and he says his name is Giancarlo Esposito.
Okay. Yeah, he's been in everything. I mean, he was in Malcolm X. He played one of Malcolm X's killers.
Oh yeah.
He was in. I don't think he had a speaking role in that movie, but his body language in that movie though. He wasn't only in like 2 scenes in that movie, but like the one scene is him just kind of cleaning a gun with a bunch of other guys getting ready to, assassinate Malcolm X.
Well,
and then the other scene.
He was in a lot of Spike Lee movies. He was in Do the Right Thing, and
that's right. Anyway, I kind of got off topic, but
anyways, he's a good actor. If you're listening to this by any chance, if you want to be on our show and be interviewed, I'd love to interview you. You're an awesome actor. And speaking of awesome actors, I'd like to just, thank Gregory again for being on the show. That was really cool. So yeah. I don't know, but yeah, as far as life goes for me, it's just pretty much work and watching Chuck. So and doing the podcast and doing some writing here and there for stuff. So hopefully that keeps people a little bit informed of what life is like during COVID for Matt and Mike. And, we'll keep you updated on that, folks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Anything else before we go here, Matt?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening, and have a good evening. Make sure you subscribe, share, rate the show. Check out the links in our show notes for things like our Patreon and our merchandise that we have at TeePublic, and some places where you can help people during COVID.
A Cullen Park production.
Because if you have a little bit of extra money and can help people out that don't have money right now because of
subscribe and
the way
share
everything
the
is
show.
shit
Visit
here.
us at cullenpark.com.
Do it. It would be good. Anyways, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.